Once you start to do that, you're leaking people in. And this really needs to be more of a private process as you figure out what steps you need to do. Like, what if you change your mind and you decide you really like the job you currently have? What if you don't want to write a book anymore and you want to, I don't know, make a musical? What if you want to do something else? You need to give yourself the prerogative to do that. My name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net. My main thing is helping you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. Today we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes we make. We're trying to remix our career. We're trying to go in a different direction. There are three big things that we should avoid at all costs. There's so many people that I've helped on their journey, hundreds at this point, as a coach, as a side hustler and a solopreneur myself. And there's a lot of flaws and challenges that we run up against. And I'd like to help you through a few of those things. If you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe. I'm here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free. And like and share with other folks that might be on a career journey just like you are. All right, so this is inspired by my new book called Career Remix, Get the Gig You Want, based on the skills you've got. It'll be out January 11th, 2022. So 1/11/22. Trying to do it with the fingers. I'm too legit to quit now, right? You can learn more about it and pre-order it over at mycareerremix.com. Thank you all for all the support. It's definitely in the vein of my most recent book, Built From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World, as well as the previous books. Those are also still available too if you want more insight in the meantime. When it comes to remixing your career, it has to do with building something beyond where you are now. My previous book is called Built From Now. Career Remix is saying, okay, you already have a career. What new directions do you want to go in? And there's three big things that we tend to do because we're so excited about the new venture. And that could actually get us going in the wrong direction. The first thing is that we often want to quit our day job immediately, like right now. We have the spark of insight, we have a new job opportunity, we are gone. Whew, this is a rough one. I talk about my own journey with this in Career Remix, where I ended up leaving a job, and then what I thought was gonna be there was not there. And luckily I did not have a family at the time or a mortgage. Otherwise, it would have been a much different story. We wouldn't be talking right now. But we're so eager to leave that we don't think about our next steps, and we make assumptions about that. With all the conversations I've heard from the people that I've coached to the people who have mentored me, people who leave to start their own company or build their own business or whatever, they often don't say, I wish I would have left earlier. They usually say, I wish I would have left later. There's a few different reasons for that. Number one, it's the psychological part of it, where they didn't realize how intense that change was going to be. It's all transition, whether it's good or bad, quote unquote. Number two, and this is the important part, they didn't realize how many resources they would need. A really simple example of this is I had someone that I worked with, and they were complaining about how much copying costs because they worked in the publishing industry. So literally copying. They were working with a big organization, and of course the big organization has a printing budget. They were doing their own thing. Suddenly there was no printing budget, and they were going to Kinko's or whatever the equivalent is, or they were using their copy machine, and they realized how much they had to print. Again, they were in the publishing industry. That little thing cost them thousands of dollars. But they didn't realize that, and they didn't factor that in when they went out on their own. You're not gonna know everything. That's not possible. But the more time you spend researching and figuring out the next step, and to make sure that it's steady and what exactly you need, the better off it will be. And as many people that are actually quite wiser than me have said, your day job can actually fund your next gig. Again, I specialize in side hustlers, solopreneurs, and other folks. I had a day job when I did my first startup, So Quotable. You know, when you see my first TED Talk, where I'm talking about the positive power of observation, I got like 2 day jobs, right? I was founding a company, and I had a day job as a journalist, not to mention a day job as the primary caregiver of my baby at the time. And so there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And in fact, that takes the pressure off that next step working. Now, if you have another job opportunity, that's a little bit of a different discussion. If you're starting your own business though, you gotta make sure that your ducks are in a row. You have to. And your day gig if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of time, a lot of your energy, maybe a few sleepless nights, you're able to build that nest egg, build that energy, build that network. Then when you leave the nest, then you're ready for that. There's so many folks that I've talked to that have left immediately and then realized that their wings weren't working. Number two, one of the biggest challenges I see when people try to remix their career is they tell everyone what they're going to do, like the whole thing. I talk about this in The Ultimate Bite-Sized Entrepreneur. I also talk about this in the new book, Career Remix, where, particularly nowadays, but it happened back in the day too, where between social media and the internet and everyone trying to be their best self and live their best life, whatever that might mean, they're trying to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to elevate this. Some people are motivated when they tell their people, I'm going to write a book in the next year. I'm going to leave my job in the next 6 months. I'm going to do this startup in the next 3 months and it's going to sell 1 million copies or do 1 million, 1 million, whatever that metric happens to be. What you have to be careful of is not stealing the thunder from your future self to do it now. In other words, if I said, I'm going to have a best-selling book, by the time I actually was going to have a book that I was writing, assuming I didn't put too much pressure on myself to actually write the book, once I got the book done, what if it didn't become a bestseller? Would I have shame? Would I give up? Would I, as I implied, would I have stopped writing along the way? What about feedback from other people? Where's that best-selling book? Are you done yet? Particularly people who don't know the culture of what you're trying to do. My last book, Career Remix, that was a good chunk of the past year, right? People, when they heard about it, and it was very few people that heard about it, they would ask me regularly how the book's going. It's a long process. My first major book took me 5 years. So this is relatively short, right? It's only because I know what I'm doing and it's a subject that's close to my heart. That's why it was smooth this time. Otherwise, it's taken me years to write books. So once you start to do that, you're leaking people in. And this really needs to be more of a private process as you figure out what steps you need to do. Like, what if you change your mind and you decide you really like the job you currently have? What if you don't want to write a book anymore and you want to, make a musical? What if you want to do something else? You need to give yourself the prerogative to do that. Now, there's a couple ways to do this, as you can see me doing the blocking here. The first thing is to build circles of trust. There's only a handful of people, literally a handful of people, that know my next career moves. It's not because I don't trust other people with that. No one's going to steal my thunder. I'm happy giving out all my ideas. My point is that, what if I change my mind? It's not ready to be public yet. I talk about that in my video that I have about Steve Jobs' famous quote, Real Artistship. Please check that out, because I talk about this a lot deeper. But once we start to let other people in, too many people in, then suddenly we have this pressure to finish. Or we have so much pressure we just quit. We're not able to listen to our instincts as much. That inner circle, again, those 5, I'll call them my brain trust. So they're people that love me, that I trust, that know what my intentions are, and they want to see me win. So if I'm doing something over here and I said I wanted to be over here, then they're going to be like, well, you said you want to be over here. There's power in that. That's different than me going to my thousands of people that I know on social media, or even my newsletter at joindamon.me, and the many, many people that are on there and saying, I'm going to do this. There's not a lot of good that comes from that. And in fact, there's more backlash that can come from that. So you can go ahead and share what you're going to do, but do it within trusted circles. Again, your brain trust, or people that you know and respect and who want to see you win. Lastly, number 3, and this is one of the most common things, is that people often want to turn a hobby into a serious business, like immediately. That's a rough way to go. As I've talked about in other videos, including the Real Artistship video, when I shifted from, I like writing, this is a lot of fun, I love interviewing people, I love traveling, I can get paid to travel, I'm gonna go ahead and do this, oh my gosh, I'm a one-on-one coach, I can just go and coach people. When it shifted from that to, this is how I'm gonna pay my mortgage, the game changed. Suddenly I needed to have system, a framework, which my coaching framework I talk about in Build From Now. the coaching framework exists because I started getting paid to be a coach. It didn't exist just because I wanted to do it, right? Suddenly you need to have rigor, insight, strength, structure, discipline. As Seth Godin says, consistency always goes over authenticity. Consistency always goes over authenticity. Authenticity is, you might be able to tell, but I'm having some sinus issues. I always have sinus issues. But I'm having sinus issues, I have a little bit of congestion. So authenticity be like, hey, I'm not doing a show this Friday because, I have a little bit of a allergy thing going on. So, or I could say, hey, you know what? I have a little bit of an allergy thing going on. So, I'll do the best that I can today. That's authentic. That's how I feel. That's honest. That's what I say to my family, right? And to people that I love, not people in my career. But how does that make you feel? It doesn't feel good, right? With a hobby, you can do whatever the hell you want. I crochet, right? I made this with my own little hands. I don't sell these. So I'll work on a blanket and I'll put it away. And if I feel like it, I'll pick it back up again. Been doing that for decades now. I learned from my favorite aunt. If that became how I fed my family, I made a living, I started paying taxes on it, then it would start to look like a factory. Authenticity is you show up however you want to feel like you need to show up or want to show up. Consistency, as Godin says, that's the gold. Then it's not a hobby anymore. It is a profession. It is a practice. It is the shit that you do. That's what you're known for, right? I am a journalist. I am an author. I am a founder. I am a coach. This is what I do, right? That means I show up. There's power in that. But with that power, we can finish the Spider-Man line. Some responsibility there too. And if you're going to be coming at people like that and saying, I am now a professional seamstress, I am now a professional baker, I'm now a professional podcaster or TV personality, or whatever you call this thing that we're doing right now, that elevates it. That's another level of the game. Now, again, as I talk about in the real artistship thing, that doesn't make your thing less valid at all. Your hobbies are beautiful. Again, my crocheting, I love it. I don't want to turn it into a profession at all because I know I'll have to be consistent. A lot of novices, a lot of folks that are just getting into the game, they see something that looks like fun. Hopping on the stage for 45 minutes, that sounds like fun. And then you're getting paid thousands of dollars and people buy your books and then people have all eyes on you. You're getting standing ovations. That sounds easy. That sounds great. That sounds like fun. It's work. It is fun as hell. That's why I love to do it. I missed the stage. I've only been on stage a few times. I'll be sure and throw a link to my recent talk that I did for a Hippo Camp. But even though I missed the stage, there's so much work that goes behind the scenes to the stage. Like me talking to you. There's a lot of work that comes to me coming to you 3 times a week right now. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, I got allergies. I'm still showing up for you. That's consistency. Once you remix your career and you say, this is what I'm going to do, particularly if you're going into your own profession, particularly if you're doing a side hustle that's turning into your main hustle, then you have to shift from the authenticity to the consistency. That takes time. If you want to learn more about remixing your career, be sure and pre-order my new book, Career Remix. Get the gig you want based on the skills that you've got. It's available 1, 11, 22. I got it over at mycareerremix.com. Shout out to Barnes & Noble and Sterling Publishing for supporting the book. I appreciate y'all. Be sure to pre-order because the pre-orders really matter as far as getting it to the right people and, of course, making sure that the work that I'm doing here is supported. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe. It's free. Again, as you figured out, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Be sure and check out some of the playlists too, particularly the one on creative habits and routines. It might give you good insight as far as remixing your career. Until next time, remember that you can always bring your worth. They can always build from now. Take care.